Hi guys, and welcome to the next video in my series on building a responsive website from scratch, looking at the complete workflow. In today's video, I'm going to be doing two sections of the site because the first one is going to be really nice and simple and really fast. So I'm going to look at the call to action as well as the footer. In the call to action, there's nothing that's going to be too fancy, but we will be using a background blend mode because we're going to take a background color and a background image and make them blend together, so that's kind of cool. And in the footer, we're going to do some fun stuff where we're going to use a pseudo element to put in our background image because it's going to let us play with the opacity. So that should be a nice little trick for you to take on in your future projects as well. So on the screen now, you can see this is what we're going to be doing. I'm not going to be doing these two pink things. I'm going to talk about that once I start coding it up. And for this one, as I mentioned, we're going to put all this in there, and then I'm going to use a pseudo element to actually put this Appalicious in the background because I'm going to be using the SVG I had from all the way when I did the logo in one of the first videos. But enough of looking at all this, let's jump right into the code. If you haven't been following along with this series, we're doing mobile first. So everything I'm doing is going to be done just for cell phones. And then at the end of the series, I'll have probably one video, as long as it doesn't take too long, to go through the whole thing and make it look good at large screen sizes. Right away, you can see there's this box here. If this ever happens, you've probably seen me have this problem before. When you grab text from Photoshop, stuff like this happens sometimes. Let me just scroll down and find it. If you do a shift return, which is a soft return, which is the same thing as a BR, you get little boxes like that, but you don't actually see it in your HTML. Let's just save there. This will update in 1 second. There we go. So that looks much better. One thing, I'm also looking at this now, and I never fixed it before, but my line height on those is okay. The line height here is a little bit high. My H1's... the title large, actually, title large, this line height is way too big. So let's just jump into my typography and fix that first. Title large, line height of 1. Let's even do like a 0.9 maybe. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit nicer. I like when it's all capitals. I've mentioned it before. All capitals, you can really shrink down on your line height so the spacing doesn't look too bad. Super. So now the first thing I'm going to have to do is I can actually close a lot of these that I have opened. Close that, close colors. I'm going to make a new file. I'm going to save this. So what I want to be doing in my SAS folder here, and I'm going to be doing this under components just because I think it makes more sense. For layout purposes, it is a layout thing, the call to action, but I see like a button is something I reuse all the time. My call to action is something that I'd probably be putting on multiple pages in lots of, well, potentially in lots of different areas. I have it at the bottom of my blog page. I'd probably have it at the bottom of almost all my pages. So I'm going to throw this right here, call to action.sas, and we'll go over to my main here and make sure that we bring it in. So I'll copy that, paste that in, and put call to action. We can jump back over to here now and actually get started. So you'll notice, I'm going to open up Photoshop for 1 second here. I have this big pink area here and then the green with the background image on it. So I'm going to actually have the green as my background. That's going to be the default background, and I'm going to create these with some pseudo elements once we get into that. So for my background, that would be .cta. And let's think. I need to have my background color secondary, I believe. Cool, that's the right color. And then I want a background image of, whoops, URL. It will be ... go back, image, and I think I gave this a really long name. Call to action, background. I don't know if it's background or background image. Background. It was that. Okay, great. So you can see the images come in. Let's just give that a background size too. Background size of cover. And I'm going to make that a bit bigger just so you can see what's going on. We can see the picture of the phone there. Actually, let's center this too. background position center. There we go, just so we can see the phone a little more. And while we're at it, let's add some padding. Padding of, say, 5M0. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So we can see our phone a little bit. Now, obviously, there's a problem. My background that I chose, I did a JPEG instead of a PNG. Because this allows me to change the color if I need to, what I'm going to be doing. I could have brought this background image in as a PNG that already had transparency on it, but it creates a heavier file size. So why not use a blending mode? So to do that, it's not too hard. It's background blend mode right there. And I'm going to use multiply. So let's hit save and we should see it. There we go. I find those so cool that I can do that through here now. Just be careful if you're doing sites that are a little bit, if you need backwards compatibility, this won't function on all your browsers going way back. And this one, the multiply one's not too bad, but just be aware that this isn't something that's fully supported going too far back. My color should be white, right? Color is text inverse. That's good. What's wrong with my button? My button isn't a button, but I'm sure I set that up. Let's go find it. Call to action. Oh, I didn't put a space. I put them all together. There we go. That looks better. My button looks like a button now. And you know what? Honestly, for the small screen sizes, that's probably about as far as I'm going to go. And because of that, and I don't want to jib you guys, let's do the footer too. I think it makes sense that we'll jump into the footer and do that, because if I'm not going to give you guys a 3-minute video, right? So let's jump into the footer and do the footer too. So I'm going to, and it's just the reason I'm not putting those triangle things here. Is just they're going to start covering the text at a small screen size, and I don't really have the play with it at a smaller screen size. So at the small screen size, the call to action will be like that, and it's only at the large screen size where they're going to jump in. So we'll get to that in another video. Let's jump down and do my footer now. So I'm going to make another new file, save that. This will go under layout, footer.sas. And we'll go back to main, copy, whoops, paste, and call that footer. Because I don't think my footer is going to be overly complicated either, actually. So let's just think about this for a second. Actually, let's go check out my footer. The most complicated thing with my footer is that background image, and that's not going to be too hard. I'm going to use the same thing I used up here. It's just an SVG. I'm going to use the same SVG down here, and it's going to be really cool how I do this. And a nice little trick that you can do just so you can load in less elements. So let's just start off with setting up my footer. I need that dark color, and actually I should go into my colors and make one. I never made a dark color. Let's just call it dark. I usually use RGB. I'm just gonna do something like 444 just because it's easier off the top of my head. Let's see how that looks. Background of dark. I think that looks okay. Color of text inverse. Except all my links, Usually I don't like doing stuff like this, but I think I'm gonna say all my footer links are color text inverse. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just gonna do that. It's gonna make life a lot easier. And there's no reason not to. Let's just keep my footer down here since we're working on that. I have my social links, and then I have my nav footer. And I also have this title. That title needs to look a bit fancier. Let's start with, actually, one more thing here. Padding of, again, let's say 5M0. And yeah, that title doesn't look like what it's supposed to. So that title is called, I think I gave that, oh, I didn't give that a title. let's give this a class then. Class is equal to title footer. Save. And I'm going to put this one in my typography for consistency's sake. I have title large, I have my title box, title intro, and we'll have, it's text intro. Let's stick with my titles. Yep, I need my title footer. So let's just go grab that again and look at it. It's all caps. I have my letter spacing on it, and I have this line on the top and the bottom. So let's set that all up. I said it was all caps. Text transform uppercase. Letter spacing 4 pixels. Line height of 1. And my letter spacing is probably a little big there, actually. Let's go with 3. Okay. Yeah, I like that letter spacing a bit more. Okay, now I just need to get that line on the top and bottom. I'm just going to use a couple of pseudo elements to do that. So we're going to say and before and after. And we're going to do what? Content. They're pseudo elements, so they need some content or they won't do anything. I'm going to do a display block on them so we can see them. I am going to give them a height of 1 pixel, so they're not very tall. And a background color of text inverse. And I'm giving it text inverse because I want it to be the same color as this text. So they're taking shape. They're a bit too in my face though, so I'm just going to give them an opacity of like 0.7 maybe. 0.5. 0.25. I want them to be kind of subtle. That looks better. And I want to pull them off. Let's give them a margin top and bottom of 0.5 em and 0 on the right and left, I guess. 0.75 em 0. I'm sort of cheating a little bit because this is giving me margin on the top there. But it's just, I'm saving a little bit of lines of text, and I think it's going to be fine doing it this way. So that should look pretty good. It's going to get kind of wide though. We'll see. I might have to build a container into this whole I have a container. Well, we'll see. For now, it's okay though. I'm worrying about small screen sizes. Let's jump back into my footer now. And what do I need to do? I need to fix all of these. So let's start with my social links, since they're the next thing. My social links are called social links, so that makes life easy. Social links. And we're using Flexbox, right? So let's give this a display of flex. And that's going to make my life a lot easier because they're just going to go in a line now. I can actually, let's make them bigger. Obviously, they need to be bigger. Font size... Whoops, font size, what should we do? 2 rem? Bigger, 3 rem. That looks nice. I want them to be centered, and I want the space, so justify content is for my spacing. Space around. We'll put the equal amount of space all around everything, so that looks nice. And then, let me just want to go look here quick. Yeah, I'd sort of faded them out here. I'd lowered the opacity on them. So let's do the same thing here. Opacity of 0.8. That looks okay. My spacing doesn't look too bad on them, so I'm going to leave it like that. And it should just sort of... Yeah, I'm going to definitely have to fix this at large screen sizes just so it doesn't get too big. But for my small screen sizes, it is just fine, guys. So let's jump down to my nav footer, right? So the nav... Pretty sure, yeah. So let's go and do nav footer. Again, display flex. Puts them all in a line. We can then do my justify content just like we did before of space around. That should space them all out nicely. They're getting kind of close to the edges. And that should... I'm going to give this a bit of a smaller width. Let's give this a width of like 80%. Oh, and then we need to do a margin of 0 auto, since that has 80%, so that looks better. Let's also, actually not 0 auto, let's say like 1M auto 0. Yeah, there we go. Just to give us the space on the top. And actually up here, margin top of like 0.25M. 0.5M. This one has to be smaller than this one because my font size here is 3M. Rem, so this margin is relative to that, so just to be aware. Actually, it might be easier. Let's just stick to 0 auto and do all my margins here. So margin is, say, 0.7M0. That should give me equal spacing, at least that way. So here I'm dealing with 3M, here I haven't set it, so here it's 1, so I'm not trying to like figure it back and forth and trying to balance it out. I just know that it's the same on the top and the bottom, so everything balances out nicely. I also want to get rid of that text decoration. Text decoration of none. And I think they were bold. They are bold. Okay. So that would be font weight of font bold, black. No, whoops, that's because I didn't put my font bold. Yeah, there we go, super duper. So the last thing I need to do now is just to throw in my background image on there. So to do the background image, I can't actually just, well I could, but if I said background is URL, let's just say background image, actually. If I just did background, it would overwrite that, but because these are two separate things now, it can work. Image slash logo.svg, I'm guessing. Yeah. I mean, there's other problems now, but you can see it's pure white, and I can't lower that whiteness. If I change the opacity of my footer, everything inside my footer gets screwed up. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is a position relative here. And then I'm going to say, before all my other content, I'm going to have something that has no content in it. That is a display block. That is position absolute. And let's just save that. And so just to show you what I'm doing, I'm going to... Let's just put the background on it right away. Background is URL of, we said it's image logo.svg. And we can't see it now because I don't have a height. So let's just give this the full size. So I'm doing a position absolute, which means top of 0, bottom of 0, right of 0, left of 0. I want it to take up the whole space. So cool, we can see that it is working, but the problem is it's repeating itself over and over and over again, which I don't want it to do, obviously. So that's obviously, I keep saying obviously, but that's not too hard to fix. Let's say a background size of cover might even just, oh no, I want contain in this case. I don't use contain very often, but for logos it works. The contain is just going to make sure that my logo is always actually in there and I see the whole thing. With cover, you get some clipping. So let's just go back. I can lose parts of it. It's going to make sure that it fills up that whole space, but I'm definitely going to lose it. So I'm going to say contain, which means I can always see the thing, my logo, and it's always going to take up as much space as it can, but it will repeat. So we have to do a background repeat of no repeat. And we'll do a background position of center. Perfect. And center should center it vertically and horizontally. And let's now just do an opacity of like 0.2. Cool. At this screen size, I'm not in love with it, but I think, you know, it's going to give me the exact look I was after at the larger ones. And I'm going to lower this even more, actually. Let's make that 0.1. 0.075. There we go. Really, really subtle. 5%. Just a little subtle design element that's in there. And even now at the small screen size, it doesn't bother me as much either, which is perfect. Exactly what I was after. And that's it. It looks nice. My mobile version of the site is now completely finished, which is awesome. It's working. I think it looks really nice. I'm really happy with it. My navigation is working. Everything is looking fantastic. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. So I hope you're enjoying the series so far. If you are, please hit the thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you subscribe because I give you more content like this every single Wednesday. And for this series, I am doing a video also on Fridays so we can speed through it a little bit faster. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video, guys. Ciao.